I have been on a journey to be someone. And along the way, I learned the secrets. It's your friends, the people you choose to spend time with. My life, health, and wealth have been changed forever by the people around me. And now it's time for you to meet my friends. This is the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. Welcome back to the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. Today I'm here with my friend Chris, who he and I have met through several masterminds and being a part of the same community for a while. So I said, Chris, you're doing big things nationwide. Come on the show. Come tell us what you got going on. Good morning, Chris.
Morning. Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike. I'm really excited to be on here today and just deliver some value for your audience here.
Yeah. But before we get into all that, can you tell us like how you got started in real estate?
Sure. Yeah. So I got started in real estate like lots of people do. I first read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which spiked my interest in real estate. And then from there, I was checking my email at my girlfriend's house, and who's my wife now. And there was a banner ad basically saying Robert Kiyosaki was coming to town. So I was like, man, I'm going to go to this thing. I'm going to meet him. I'm going to shake his hand, tell him how much he's changed my life. But of course, he wasn't there. And but what I did end up gaining from that is just something far greater. So when I was at the event, the presenter drew like all the different ways you could make money in real estate on the board, and they talked about flipping, they talked about land development, creative finance, all these different ways. But there was one strategy that really just stuck with me, and that was wholesaling. When they said you could basically take a piece of paper and you could flip that piece of paper for tens of thousands of dollars without using any of your own credit or any of your own cash, I was sold. I looked at my wife and I said, this is it. This is what we need to do. And then from there, that's how we got started. So from the end of that event, we signed up for a 2-day boot camp in Miami, went there, learned the ins and outs of wholesaling, and began our journey.
Wow, so you started by going to a Robert Kiyosaki seminar, learning
Yeah.
all the different methods, and then wholesaling is just what spoke to you and what you
Yep.
wanted to do. That's
100%.
awesome.
Yep.
So do you remember your first deal?
Yes. So my first deal. So I didn't always wholesale virtually. I started out locally, but knowing what I know now, if I could start it all over, I would start virtual instead of just starting local. But we can get into that a little bit later. But my first deal, I did everything wrong that you could possibly think of in the book. So my first deal, I actually got it under contract because I was working for a cell phone company at the time, and people would come in and talk to me and bring their phones and all that. But it was a great opportunity for networking. So I spoke to this lady who had this property. Now, looking back, I kicked myself because the amount of opportunity that was there with this thing was just insane. But it's just not, I didn't know enough at the time to know what I had. So she's like, hey, I got this property that I inherited from my mom who passed away. It's on Davis Island. It's a great historic property. Now, keep in mind, Davis Island is probably one of the most luxurious places to live in Tampa Bay. I mean, you have houses out there that are 10 million, $50 million, crazy. And the opportunity that I came across was to get this property under contract for, I want to say it was $350,000 at the time. And then it also had a vacant lot right next to it. And I got both under contract. So I didn't have any buyers at the time, and I wore a suit to the property with a tie. I posted ads for it on Craigslist. I would lock the door when people would come in behind me, which is just kind of weird. Don't know why I did that. And and I would walk through the house and just kind of show them the house, kind of like a realtor. And I just did everything possibly the wrong way. But the biggest thing that stood out of what I did wrong was a guy talked to me at the time. He was one of the buyers that I found. He actually owned a string of gyms, and he said, hey, I'm interested in buying the house. He said, so how much can I get it for? And I said, well, you can get it for 350,000, but you have to pay me 30 grand to be able to get it at that price. He's like, wait, what? And I said, yeah, so you're getting the house for 350, you got to pay me 30 grand. You can get it for 350. He's like, so I'm getting it for 380. I was like, well, kind of, but not really. you're paying me to, anyway, long story short, he didn't buy. And the next thing I did is the seller had a for sale by owner sign on the front yard. I actually cut that down and put up my own sign because I was like, if this property is going to get calls, it's going to go to me. Needless to say, seller got furious with that, called me, in a rage, just really upset. And from there, they said they found a buyer. And so I let them out of the contract and moved on. So that was the first deal that I put under contract. And the first actual deal that went through, I got from a bandit sign, though. And that was in a nicer suburbs part of Tampa Bay called West Chase. And I made $4,000 on that deal, but I had to get 3 extensions with the seller. So I, put them through the rigmarole, but we ended up getting it done. And that was all the proof that I needed to see that this could be this could turn into something big, and it could have the potential to replace my job at the time.
That's an amazing story. So you stumbled upon this gem, and would you call that a probate lead? I guess would you call it that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So it needed to go through probate. And for anyone listening who doesn't know what that is, it's just a legal process of transferring a property from someone who passes away to the beneficiary, the person they left it to. And that has to be completed before you can close. But that is the type of property it was. It was a great opportunity. Looking back now, there was at least a 6-figure assignment fee in there, but I just didn't know what I was doing at the time. But lesson learned.
Yeah, I think we all know what we don't know whenever we get started. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had a few stories like that myself. And so so the first deal you actually closed on, how did you find the buyer?
So I actually found the buyer the same way I found the seller. So I thought to myself, man, if these plastic signs can bring sellers, maybe they can bring buyers too. So I put out a sign that said cash buyers wanted, and I put the property, how much I was asking for it. And then I got calls, and what's really neat is the buyer that ended up closing on it and buying that property from us. What was really cool about him is he actually ended up buying let's see, probably 20 or 30 more properties from us after that. And he was our very first buyer. So it was a
Wow.
great way to find buyers, and just we built a great relationship with him. And it definitely paid off on future deals too.
You got really good ROI from a little plastic sign.
Oh man, that was the way to do it when I first started, and I was doing it locally. And obviously, you have your hurdles and obstacles there, but it was definitely a great way to do it. I didn't have a lot of money when I first started, and so spending $300 a month on plastic signs and putting them out, like, it got us our deal, and that allowed us to lay the foundation for what we got now.
Yeah, in marketing, you get what you ask for, and so I love that you put cash buyer wanted. I've put out bandit signs when I was first getting started too, even when I had a house hack and I was having a hard time filling up the rooms. And I learned that
Hmm.
you got to be careful what you put on signs, otherwise you will end up with a lot of bad leads to sift through. I just
No.
put room for rent and the price one time, and I was out putting out signs because my first deal was a house hack, as I've talked about before, and I had people call me that couldn't afford it or that were asking for Section 8, or people that were like, um, it was some tough leads to sift through. So I learned, you get what you ask for. You need to be Sometimes you need to be more specific, sometimes you need to be less specific.
Yeah.
Bandit signs are great, and just for anybody listening that's considering using bandit signs, in some cities they require permitting to do it, and in other places they just throw them in the trash. In some places you can get in trouble for doing it, so know your local rules before you do bandit signs. I don't think a lot of people are doing bandit signs anymore. I'm not saying they don't work. I just see less and less of them being used these days. But there was a point in time where, man, you could really make the phone ring with just bandit signs. That's all it took.
Yeah, a big key to my success, and something that I've recognized is that the marketing channels that I've always picked to do have been the ones that are not what everybody else is doing. So if you have everybody doing this one type of marketing channel, like, I'm looking for what can I do that's not that. And following that, I've been able to get some fantastic deals. Like, even when I first started, like, even posting on Craigslist, everybody said at the time Craigslist was dead. I was getting massive deals off of Craigslist because everybody thought Craigslist was dead. We even put an ad in the yellow pages before, and we've gotten a deal from that. From that. So now we mainly focus on cold calling to get deals. And still, a lot of people say cold calling's dead. They're like, oh, cold calling doesn't work anymore. Well, I let them think that, and I continue to do it. We continue to get deals. So,
Yeah, go where others are not. That's
yep,
that's the lesson. Go where others are not. Look for that blue ocean. Um,
100%.
okay, so that was your first deal that closed, that transacted, that you made money off of. Do you remember your
Yep.
assignment fee on that one?
Yeah. So that assignment fee was $4,000.
$4,000. Amazing,
Yep.
from $300 in little plastic signs.
Oh yeah, that 4,000 was everything to me at the time because even though I was making more than that at my job each month, that was proof of concept. That showed it could be done, and so that meant more to me than any amount of W-2 income that I could have. And again, that laid the foundation for what's possible, which was growing to where we are now, and just seeing that it works. And I think that's what most people need to see when they're first getting started. Your first deal is going to be the absolute hardest deal that you ever do because it's your first one. You're starting from square one, you're building up the momentum, you're picking up the phone, you're making those calls, you're doing all this work, and you're like, I don't know if this is working or not. But the key there is to push through that and continue, because real estate is a numbers game. As long as you put in the activity, you will get a result. It's not if you're going to get a result, it's when. And the key is sticking in there even when you don't see the results, because the result is actually just right around the corner. There's an image that I really like, that's you can see online a lot. It's the guy who's hacking away at that diamond mine. It's that cartoon. I don't know if you've seen that, where he's hacking away. And my guy is like 2 inches away from breaking through and getting all the diamonds, but he's walking away frustrated with his shoulders slumped over. He's like, I guess this just doesn't work. But man, what if you would have just kept going? What if you would have just took 2 more hacks? So the big mentality shift that people need to have when they're first getting started is one more. Just do one more call. If you don't feel like, if you feel like you're tired of dialing, do one more call, and then do one more after that, and continue doing one more until you get the result, because it will happen if you stick in there.
Yeah, the power of one more. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I like what you said about proof of concept. That was a huge shift for me and my wife. That
Mhm.
when we did our first deal and everything closed, and our first deal was like a buy and hold rental. It wasn't a wholesale, but the plan. Funny story on that. I've told it before in this podcast, but well, I'll jump into that now then. So part of it was mindset was the issue, because I thought if I could just wholesale enough houses, one day I'd have enough money to flip. And then if I could just
Yeah.
flip enough houses, maybe one day I'd have enough money to buy and hold. And
Yeah.
my first deal was, I showed it to somebody that I put it a contract, and they said, "You should talk to a private lender. I think you can flip this." I'm like, "No way." And so I get referred to a private lender, and he says, "Yeah, I'll fund this for you. You can flip it. Have you talked to like a conventional lender? You can probably hold this as a rental." And I'm like, "No way." And then he connected me with a conventional lender. And then the conventional lender underwrites it and says, "Sweetheart, you can do 10 of these in your name, and then we can do 10 of these in your wife's name. And then after that, we have a whole other product where you can keep buying them. If they look like this, we can keep doing these until the cows come home." And so one thing that was, it was like my own mind, my own, like the chains were fully imaginary. But the other part was proof of concept. So yeah, we did a deal or two, but when we went full cycle and went to sell the rental after we had it for a few years and got it out, and we kind of did like the final calculation of like, we put 17 grand into a deal and we exited for 115 grand. And there was some costs along the way that we factored into that. But you look at everything else that you've ever done in your life, and you're like, what the heck am I doing? After that, my wife is like, burn the ships. I cashed out my 401k. The stock market's never going to give you these kind of returns. Working a job is never going to give you these kind of returns. I mean, you got to pay your bills, but there was like this huge, it was about proof of concept. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this, not just you, Chris, is your first deal is not about making a ton of money. Your first deal is about believing that it's real. And I
Yep.
understand that. And I know people who have lost money on their first deal, but they went on to do 20 more deals because they understand that it's real now. And a lot of those people did it without coaching or mentorship or having the right people in their corner. But it's the proof that it was real that
Hmm.
just changes how you look at the world. And for people out there who've just done a couple of deals and kind of still aren't there yet mentally, I'd remind you there is a huge valley between the people who've never done a deal and the people who've done one deal. So if you've done at least one deal, you are now closer to Chris or anybody else in your world, whoever you visualize on top of a mountain, you are closer to that guy than you are to everyone else who have done zero deals. So just getting that one deal puts you in a whole other universe of people, a different kind of networking, a different type of people and resources at your disposal. So just get one, man. Just do one deal and your life will be changed forever. That's what I tell everybody, Chris.
Love that. I couldn't agree more. You know, it's just getting that one deal, seeing that it's possible, and then you're like, shoot, if I can get one, I can get another one. Or if I can make 4,000, I can make 40,000. If I make 40,000, I can make 400,000. If I can make 400,000, and it just keeps going on and on from there. So, but I love that. It's so
and
true. So
and I
true.
remember I was kind of stressed out, and then at one point when I was having a hard time finding a deal after I did a few, and I remember someone telling me if you just do one or two deals a year in 10 years, your life will be completely different. And that
Hmm.
motivated me to move forward. But what I learned from that is if you can do one or two deals a year, you can do 20, 40, 60 deals a year. It's not that difficult. But that motivation he gave me was like, just do one or two deals a year for the next 10 years and your life is going to be unrecognizable. And I'm glad he kind of told me that to kind of give me the power of one more to keep going because today my life is completely unrecognizable. But let's bring the story back to you. So, what does your business look like today?
Yeah, great question. So after we got our first deal, so fast forward, America was hit with COVID, right? And COVID was a thing that was really hard for a lot of real estate investors because if people weren't virtual and they weren't, doing deals from home, they couldn't do deals. There was a lot of people that stopped doing deals, were on pause during that time, just didn't know what to do. But thankfully, 2 years before COVID, we actually went virtual in our wholesaling business. So what does that mean? Like we weren't driving to properties, we weren't, bringing contracts to sellers, we weren't, driving for dollars, anything like that. We were doing the entire business from home. And what was amazing about that is when COVID hit, when a lot of people were on pause, we actually had one of the best years we've ever had during that time. So that really laid the foundation for growth. And we decided to really just double down on cold calling. That was like our main marketing strategy. And so I did it myself a little in the beginning. And then from there, we grew that. And then we eventually hired like 10 people to make calls for us. And I'd love to tell you that we crushed it right out of the gate. And, money fell from the sky. It was awesome. Totally not the case. Didn't do any deals. Then the second month, still no deals. On the third month, we had 22 deals under contract, all from cold calling and 100% virtual. So we've grown our business to over seven figures and doing deals 100% virtually, only doing virtual wholesaling. You don't need to be a transaction engineer, know 50 different ways to do a deal to get your first deal or do deals consistently. And that's mainly what we focus on. So today, what my team looks like is we have a small team of probably like 5 or 7 people on it. We used to have a really large team. We used to have like 35 people on our team. I had 7 acquisition managers. I mean, it was bananas. And what we realized when we got to that point is we said, I don't like the I don't feel like we want to maintain at this level and at this point because by doing that, it required a different level of management and more time. And the whole reason we got into this was so we could step back and not put in a lot of time, right? It was just more meetings for me and everything like that. So we said, we're scaling the business back. We're going to go to a small team, keep it small, keep it all. And now we have an acquisition manager, a disposition manager. We have a dispositions assistant, so someone who helps our guy like market deals. I have an executive assistant and we have a call center manager and some cold callers. So that's what our team looks like today. So we scaled back to that. And, from there, what we realized was the next stage for us was we wanted to start impacting others and showing others how to do that. And that's naturally evolved because, if we can do more deals ourselves, fantastic. But if we can show other people how to do it, like that is just something that we're super pumped and jazzed up about.
Yeah, I love that. Keep it small and keep it all. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
really resonated with me as well. I have so many people in my network and other people I've interviewed that went for this build this monster machine, and somewhere along the way they're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
They're almost, sometimes they're making more money but they're miserable. Other times they're doing more deals, but they do the math and realize they're making about the same money if they scale down. So
Oh yeah.
everybody kind of finds himself in a different situation. So I love the keep it small, keep it all. I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
Like we've been able to create a fantastic lifestyle just from wholesaling, and that's how we left our corporate jobs, is virtual wholesaling and doing that. And what you said couldn't be more true. I know people that were making over $10 million a year wholesaling, but they were hardly making any money, period, like from that. And so it's not all about the revenue number. It's not all about like just making money to make money. Like, you have to think about, like, what type of lifestyle do I want to live, and is having a business with all those people, is that really in line with like where I want to, like how I want to live, and the management that's involved in that. And so I find that you can scale a wholesaling business to 7 figures, hover around there, and you can work 2 hours a day in your business, and have a very, very good lifestyle. And so that's what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, real estate has really changed my life as well. I talk about it on the show before, but I was flying Monday through Friday every week to a different city. I was only home
Mm-hmm.
on weekends and holidays for 8 years. And my
Mm-hmm.
wife said, "Hey, as long as I'm in this master program, you can do whatever you want. But whenever I finish school, it's time for you to come home." And so I started building my real estate business while I was traveling. I was only home on weekends and holidays, and then I had to go out and do sellers appointments, and I put out bandit signs and walk properties with sellers and do all this just on weekends and holidays. And so if I can find a way to squeeze that into my busy life, you guys can too. So tell me about how you guys are finding deals these days in this market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So there's two methods that we use to find deals. The main method that we use is cold calling. Cold calling by far is the number one way to get deals, especially if you're just getting started too, because it puts you instant contact with sellers. You can pick up a phone today and talk with someone who's motivated to sell their property, like right now. Right. And so I love it. It's very easy. You pick up the phone, you just make calls until you get someone to say yes, and that's it. Right. And not to mention cold calling, if you do it for 90 days, it'll give you a 10-year education in sales and marketing. So it lays the foundation for everything else that you do. And on top of that, it'll give you a much higher return on any of the other marketing that you do. So if you start at the beginning doing cold calling, and maybe later on you want to do something fancy like pay per click or something like that, you're going to have a much greater return on the dollars invested, because you're going to know how to handle those calls. Because let's be honest, most people suck on the phone when they first get started. I did. And you get better by putting in the reps, and cold calling is a great way to do that. The second method that we use to get deals is pay per lead. And that's something we've also been really successful with and have gotten a lot of deals with. It's a lot easier, not for people just getting started. That's after you've done some deals, you have some money to invest, and you want to get leads a little bit easier and coming to you. It's a great method to be able to do that.
So love it. And so for people listening, pay per lead is where someone else goes out and does a lead generation for you. They stay compliant with all the rules. They do digital marketing, and they grab someone out of the ethos that's really motivated to sell right now. And what does that mean? It means you pay more for that lead, right? Depending
Mm-hmm.
on the market you're in, the price is different in every city, but it could be $200-300. It could be $600, $700, $800. It just depends on what market you're in and what your budget is, and if you're buying in volume. But those are really high quality leads, and so I agree that not everybody should start there. You should know how to close a deal, or you should hire a closer or have a closer on your team or partner with somebody, because those are very, very hot leads.
Yep.
I agree with you that cold calling is a great place to start. And so what is it looking like these days? If I was brand new and I signed up with you and I'm starting a cold call, what kind of list am I calling?
Yeah, so great question. So this is probably one of my favorite topics, because not every list is made equal right now in the current market conditions that we're in, right? So we're in an environment right now where prices that are an all-time high, you have interest rates that are high, and sellers are really are kind of picky choosy if they want to sell right now. Buyers are really picky because there's a lot of opportunity there. They have multiple options now, right? So what do you do? So the best thing for you to do in this market is focus on people who those types of things don't matter to, right? Focus on marketing to sellers who don't care about the interest rates. They don't care about how expensive houses are right now, right? All they care about is, can you solve their problem? So the types of homeowners that we like to focus on, one of my top lists that we currently focus on right now is called the tired landlord list. These are people that have owned properties for 15 years or more. They are tired of tenants and toilets, and they just want out. They tried to time the market and hope they could, cash out and make as much money as possible. They kind of missed that a little bit, and now they just want to sell these properties. And the cool thing is, these people typically don't just have one property, they may have multiple properties that you could get under contract. So it's a great list to focus on. Even more so if you put on another layer of motivation. Let's say it's a guy who's owned a property for 10, 15 years, and he also lives in a different state than the property he has is in, right? That's what you call an out-of-state landlord. And people like that are like really motivated to sell their property, especially if that property is vacant, the thing that he was depending on income for his family, and now it's a hassle, right? So the second list that's been a really great list for us is called the senior owners list. So the senior owners list is just like it sounds. It's a house owned by someone who's owned that property for at least 20, 30 years. They have a senior voucher on their home indicating that they're a senior. And those people are incredibly motivated to sell because typically they're downsizing. The house has become too much for them. And right now we're in the largest baby boom generation of our time, where there's 10,000 people every single day turning age 65. So this is a huge market to target because they're all wanting to sell. Maybe they want to live with their kids. They're going to sell the property there. Who cares if they go to a smaller place? They want to downsize and go someplace smaller. So those two lists are very good. And then anything outside of that, focusing on lists that, again, market conditions people don't care about: inherited properties, probate properties, fire damage properties, people who are behind on their taxes. Like, these people, they're just looking for a solution. You could be that solution.
Yeah, I love the tired landlord list. The house that I'm sitting in right now, I bought off market from the tired landlord list. I bought it
Proof it
very,
works.
very, very, very well priced, and my mortgage is now half of what my neighbors are. I live in a great suburb in West Houston, and I think the tired landlord list is a great transaction because it's not very emotional, and we don't have to figure out where they're going to move or where they're going to live.
Yes.
It's more about the numbers, and also a landlord or an investor understands that you have to make money to do the deal. And so I've had people that they lived out of town, they owned a property here in Houston. They told me, go out there, take measurements. I'm not going to meet you there. No one's going to meet you there. I had one person like have a family member leave a key hidden in a Coke can for me so I could go check it out. And they're like, take measurements, let me know, make me a cash offer. I know you need to make money, Michael. I was like, wow, this is great. And the house that I live in now was originally going to be a rental, but we decided to move into it. So tired landlord list, I love that. And I love what you said, man. Interest rates are high, prices are high. So look for people who are not sensitive to that. Like if your house
Yep.
burns down and you cashed a check from the insurance company and you just want it gone, some people keep the money from the insurance company and choose not to rebuild, and they just sell the lot with a burnt down house. So you
Mm-hmm.
can put that house under contract and find an in buyer who wants to get the permits to demo the house, scrape the lot, and rebuild on it. And so I love that you go where, and then paper lead, that more of an advanced strategy. And you have a harder time kind of controlling what comes in on a paper lead, right?
Yeah, so that's the reason we like our method for anybody brand new. So if you're listening to this, you're brand new and you're like, what should I do? The very first thing that you should do is cold calling. Hands down, doing that. Cold calling, lists of motivated sellers, the tired landlord lists, the senior owner list. Those are great lists. You can get those through Batch Leads. It's a company that we use. You can pull the code violations list from the county. That's a free list that you can get, right? So you're calling these lists, call for sale by owner properties, but pick up the phone, get the reps in and make those calls. Then from there, the next step, once you've gotten a deal yourself, is to reinvest 20% of the deal that you generated and then have someone make calls for you. So now you're not making calls, someone else is doing the lead generation for you. And now you can focus on doing the most profitable thing you can do, which is making offers and closing deals.
I love how you have a system where you scale it. I never had that when I was going that you make a profit and you take 20% of that and you hire someone to now generate the leads for you so you can focus on making offers. Man, I
Yep.
wish I had met you earlier in my journey. That would have made it so much easier.
Hey,
So
I
you
wish I would
really
have known this stuff early in my journey.
right. Yeah, yeah, we all do. You really got it streamlined there. And what I love about cold calling or anything making offers is like I learned to look at it as in every no is one step closer to a yes. So
Totally.
I had KPIs for the area that I was investing in, and it was like at the time it was like, I don't know, it was like 12 no's for every yes. So every time
Hmm.
someone tells me no, I didn't get my feelings hurt. I was just racing to the yes. So do you have like I know each city, each zip code, each state is going to be unique, but someone who's just starting out that doesn't have strong closing skills, what kind of like KPIs or key performance indicators are you looking for from them to let them know that they're on track or they need help or you need
Yeah.
intervention? What does that look like right now for you?
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to ask this because this is something we've got dialed into the T here, right? First of all, when you're making your cold calls, right, there are four things that you need to get on every single call, and we call that the four pillars of motivation. So you need to get the price, how much are they hoping to get for the property, the timeline, when they want to sell, the condition of the property, and then the last one is the one you need to spend the most of your time on. That's the motivation, the why. Why are they wanting to sell? Why are they even open to a conversation with you in the first place? A lot of times when you're cold calling, you're going to get people saying, well, yeah, I'm not really interested in selling right now, but for the right price, I mean, maybe I'm interested. Or you called me, you make me an offer. It's like, well, I'm sure that you're open to selling at some point because you're talking to me here on the phone, you're investing time there. So tell me more about that. What's got you wanting to sell? And flip it, right? But outside of that, when you get the four pillars of motivation, we found it only takes about 25 to 35 of those types of leads to do a deal, right? To get a deal closed. 25 to 35 leads where you've gotten the four pillars of motivation, right? And that's the benchmark there. It doesn't matter where you are in different parts of the country, right? That is the benchmark. If it takes you 40 or 50 leads to get a deal, right? Of the four pillars of motivation, then that just simply means that you got to go to work on your phone skills. You got to go back and listen to your call recordings. Use a phone service that you can record your calls. If you want to start with something cheap, you can do Google Voice that records your calls and you can go back and listen to the calls. Now, the key to listening to calls is making sure you're listening to what you did right. Congratulate yourself for that, right? And then also listen to the areas that you can improve upon. Do less of what doesn't work and do more of what works.
Yeah, I like how you said that you need to use a platform that does voice recording. A lot of the fancy CRMs these days will record everything. So whether you or someone you hire is doing cold calls, then you can do
Mm-hmm.
something that we call call calibrations. I'm sure you do these too, Chris, where you sit down with yourself or with someone that you've hired and you pull random calls or trouble calls. You listen to them and you take notes on what can do better, what you can do better. And if I'm helping somebody, and they're like, I'm cold calling and it's not working. I'm like, give me your call recording. Well, they're not being recorded. Well, I'm sorry. It's really hard for me to help you if you don't have recordings of yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. So in
That's
order for
that's
us
like
to,
a non-negotiable in the beginning. Like you got to record your calls so you can see like what needs to be improved. How do you know what needs to be improved? If you do a call and it has a really positive outcome, you make an offer, they say yes, you get the deal in the contract, or like you make an offer and it could be a right fit, just not right at that time. Like that's a positive direction. If you're not getting cursed out, that's a positive direction, right? And then that's how you can kind of identify those good things and just doing more of those.
and so we put something under contract and it closes. How are you guys dispoing your deals these days? And disposition means to like find the end buyer, to sell to the
Mhm.
end buyer. How are you guys dispoing these days?
Yeah. We have a very simple process for selling deals, right? So a lot of people, they subscribe to all these fancy softwares and everything like that. We built our buyers list totally free and organically, right? So the way that we do it, and this is the same thing, we do the same thing if I was just going to be getting started or if I was going to be going into a new territory, like a new market, like I would do the same thing over and over and over again. So what we do is when we pick a territory, we go in to that market and we join all of the local real estate Facebook groups that are in that territory, right? And after we've joined the groups, we then do a search in the group for the wholesalers that are selling deals. And we see in the comments of those deals, people saying, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer. So then what we do then is we friend request those people, shoot them a DM on Facebook, and we'll ask them, hey, saw you commented on this deal here in the Facebook group. Was that just a one-off deal for you? You're looking to buy more, right? And he's going to say, well, no, I'm looking to buy more. Great. Are you what type of buyer are you? And they, find out if they're a wholesaler, realtor, or a cash buyer. And then regardless of what they are, get them added to your list. Make sure you have the best phone number for them and email, and then let them know that you're doing some marketing now. You have some deals similar to that one coming down the pike. Would it be okay if you add them to your list? They're going to say yes. Add them to your list and do that for an hour a day. Add 5 of those contacts to your list every single day, whether it's a wholesaler, cash buyer, realtor. 5 a day will keep drop deals away. You'll build your list really fast. You get to 25 buyers on your list, you can pretty much sell any deal that you have, right? Ultimately, the goal is to get to 100. Once you have 25, you can start doing your seller marketing. See, we flip it. We don't do our seller marketing first. We follow the FYBF method, find your buyer first. You grow your buyers list, you find out what they want, you put together marketing for what they want, you bring it to them. When you do that, wholesaling becomes so much easier.
Yeah, when you do that, you're just an order filler. I love
That's
that.
it.
The most anxious part of wholesaling for me is who's going to buy this thing, where is it going?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a credible buyer, and you know what they want, you're filling their order, you bring it to them, they're going to buy it.
Yeah.
They are going to buy it. And so the most anxious part for wholesaling for me is totally taken care of. How would I vet, Chris, if they are really my buyer? If they tell me through Facebook, yeah, I'm a buyer, this is what I buy, this is what I do. How would I verify that? Or should I not even worry about it? Should I just build a big enough of a buyer's list knowing someone will take it?
Okay, so this is a common mistake that a lot of people make, right? So a lot of people, they want to really drill down with that buyer and be like, hey, like show me your bank statements and all these things. The biggest thing to keep in mind when you're growing your buyers list is it's lead generation. That's all it is. Like there's no point in drilling down if you don't have a deal, because eventually what's going to happen, you're going to ask so many questions to them that they're going to get frustrated and be like, so do you have a deal or not? And then you're going to ruin that relationship. So I simply like to find out if they're a cash buyer, wholesaler, realtor, get them added to my list, find out where they're looking to buy or they're looking to have clients or where they have buyers. And then I make a note of that in my CRM, right? And then we don't care about verifying anything until we blast out our deal and people start wanting to put their money where their mouth is and making offers. So then when they make an offer on the property, that's where we dive a little bit deeper. Got it. So you're wanting to make an offer on the property. That's awesome. Looking forward to getting a deal done. Talk to me. So are you looking to buy this for yourself? Or are you looking to bring a buyer? That one sentence there will tell you everything that you need to know about what they're trying to do. And if the person confidently says, no, I'm looking to buy myself. If they say, well, sometimes I wholesale, sometimes I buy, they're a wholesaler. So just let them know that that's okay. You work with wholesalers and that's okay. You love working with wholesalers. They can get more eyes on your deal. It's just for transparency, you want to know what's going on so you can make sure everything flows smoothly.
Man, you really got this dialed in, Chris. I really love those answers to things like that. All right. And so you guys know how to stand up the acquisition. You know how to find the end buyers. You know how to vet your buyers, and you guys are getting deals done. Are you doing transactional funding? Are you guys doing double closes? Are you just doing a traditional assignment of contract? Have you seen any changes in that space recently?
Yeah, so straight up, we like to do assignments. Assignments is everything. I haven't double closed a deal, and I can't even tell you how long it's been since we double closed a deal because it's just not necessary. A lot of people are concerned about what the seller is going to see your fee. Sellers don't know what to look for, nor does it matter because it's not a fee to them; it's a fee to the buyer. So it doesn't matter, right? Outside of that, there are some states that say that you can't do assignments unless you have a real estate license, or they limit the number of deals that you do, like Illinois, for example. Like you can only do one assignment there, and then any more beyond that, you'd have to have a real estate license to do it. So it's really important to know the rules of your state. And that's why, hands down, the best person that can be on your team is just having a relationship with a local real estate attorney that can walk you through the do's and don'ts of what's going on. So that way you don't make any costly mistakes. Super easy to find out. You don't need to have a ton of money to hire an attorney. You can literally just have someone you can pick up the phone and call and let him know you're going to be doing all of your, have him write your contracts or whatever in the future. So he sees a long-term relationship there.
Yeah, I was scared of involving attorneys early on as well, but
Yeah.
in the real estate space, they're not expensive. You're not. This isn't a Hollywood movie where you're paying someone $100,000 retainer fee. I mean, I've had items on my closing statement where I've had attorney get involved, and I think it cost me like $400 or $500. Like, depends on what state you're in and what they're doing to look over documents, to draw up notes.
Yeah.
It is not expensive, guys. Attorneys are not making money the way that you guys think they are,
Yeah.
and so they are happy to be pushing out paperwork for you and looking at contracts and reviewing things, and just take a small fee on the closing statement,
Can
and
I
get
give you an
paid.
example of that really quick?
Yeah, please
Because
jump
this
in.
is, yeah, because this is really key what you're talking about here. These are not Wall Street attorneys. I'll give you an example, right? So we've had times where sellers have said, you know, forget you guys. I know we told you we were gonna sell to you. We're not gonna sell to you. We're in fact gonna list with this realtor over here, and that's gonna be it. And send me a cancellation. So at that point, we would say, hey, like the agreement we sign is a bilateral agreement, meaning it requires two signatures to be able to cancel. We don't agree. We're not going to sign. We'd like to move forward, handle this peacefully. But if that's not you and that's not what you want to do, just let us know so we know how to move forward, right? They're going to, and then what they would say is like, hey, well, we're not going to do that. Long story short, we have our attorney send them a letter for $250, right? Sends them a letter, gets the seller back on board, and we make 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, whatever our assignment fee was, right? Is that worth $250? Absolutely.
All day long, all
All
day
day
long.
long.
And are you guys filing memos on every property you put under contract?
Only if it's necessary. So, for example, like, you know, we're not one of those companies that just that files something to cloud the title on every property, whether we sell it or not. I know some people who do that, and it's just not a good practice. But what we do is if the seller gives us any indication they're not going to be cooperative, like that they're moving for someone else, they're being a little shady, then yes, we do protect our interest in the property and record either a notice of interest or a memorandum, same thing, against the property to make sure that we're protected and it keeps everybody honest and on the same page. So we're all moving forward.
Yeah, and for everybody listening, to file a memo on a property, it could be called other things in other states, but here in Texas, we call it filing a memo. It's very cheap. Last one I did, it was like $130, and it's just a little piece of paper attached with the record of the title with the county that says, "Hey, by the way, this is in the process of being sold, and this guy Michael is the guy that's selling it." And what it prevents is this from any other people going around to the seller and kind of stealing the deal from you, or maybe the seller wants to change their mind and move in a different direction. And it's just a way to protect your interest in what's going on, and it allows them where they can't close the transaction without your memo being released. I know people who file them on every single transaction, every single time. Know your local rules. Sometimes in some states, you have to have that in the contract that the seller
Mm-hmm.
signs saying we will
Yep.
file a memo or we could file a memo. In other places, I believe, I don't know this to be true, but someone told me it's like a misdemeanor in some states if you have a memo filed without the consent or disclosure of the buyer, of the
Yeah,
seller.
there were some larger wholesale companies a long time ago that were doing it extreme. Like they would record it, whether they had a buyer for the deal or not, whether the seller was on board or not. And they're like, I'm just going to get paid either way, whether I do the deal or whether the seller calls me and says, hey, I'll pay you to release this against the property, because they literally can't close with that on there. So, so that's drawn a lot of attention to it. And a lot of, like anything can be used for the wrong way, right? Like you could have a spoon and the spoon can be a good thing to help you eat, or it could be used for something else, right? But at the end of the day, like it all comes down to just how you go about business and just doing
Yeah.
things the right way. You never have anything to worry about.
Yeah. And so are you holding real estate? Are you buying, doing single families? Or are you doing multifamily? Or are you just staying in your lane with wholesaling?
Yeah, so we invest in syndications. So syndications is something that we're really big on, taking our active income from wholesaling and put it in there, and we're growing our rental portfolio as well. But you know, the primary focus for us really has been wholesaling and doing deals and growing our income like that. So that's just really really big game changer for us.
Yeah, I love that. So when you do wholesaling or when you make active income from wholesaling, you could have a large tax liability depending on your
Hmm.
write-offs. And I'm not a
Yep.
CPA, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, but I have people in my network and myself have done this that when we are wholesaling a lot and generating a lot of income, we want to put it in things that will create depreciation and write-offs for us.
Hmm.
Syndications is the easiest way to do that. People who
Hands
listen to
down.
don't understand syndications when a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of people put money together, go out and buy an asset together as a group. So it could be apartments, it could be self storage, it could be land. You can syndicate a lot of things. It could be mobile homes, trailer parks, RV parks. And I know people that earn active income wholesaling and flipping that utilize a solo 401k. So they don't want
Hmm.
to pay taxes on their money. So they dump a lot of money in a solo 401k and they put it in a self directed solo 401k. And then they can take that money and then invest it in syndications. If anybody listening is interested in that, just DM me the name, DM me the word IRA, and I can get you the information to a self directed IRA company for people with that are self-employed that have retirement plans that they want to self-direct into assets like syndications. I think it's great. You do no work. You read a financial statement once a quarter, and you cash a check every 3 6 months whenever they pay it to you. And most importantly, it can generate depreciation and write-offs for you and your
Yeah.
company. So I
Yeah.
love to hear that you're doing that.
It's something I wish I would have done much sooner because we paid some pretty hefty taxes on our wholesaling business from all of our income coming from active income. And to be able to put that money that you give to Uncle Sam into an investment and have somebody else who has a lot more experience and a lot smarter than you just manage that for you, like it's awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to move to the last segment of the show here.
Sure.
These are the same questions that I ask everybody on
Hmm.
every episode. But what I
Bring
like
them
to do
on.
first, and so I like to remind the audience that whatever it is you do right now in your life, you're on a course. And we like to think that this course of life, just like a ship sailing, is of our own choice and our own free will, that we are choosing the course we sail. But more often than not, our ship was set on course by society, our friends, our family, the school we went to, where we grew up. The things around us are predetermining that course. And as I have talked to lots of entrepreneurs and real estate investors, I've learned that what changed the course of their ship and got them into real estate or entrepreneurship or running a business or whatever, it's usually a book. And so, what book changed the course of your life the most, either got you into real estate or changed how you approach real estate? What book would that be?
So that would be this
Oh,
book
he's
right here.
reaching. For those not watching on YouTube, he's
Boom.
reaching to the book, The One Thing.
Yeah, The One Thing by Gary Keller. This book was a game changer for me because I have a traditional entrepreneur um, mentality and problem. Hey, there it is.
For
I
those of you
love
not
that.
watching on YouTube, I'm holding up my copy of The One Thing as well. Sorry,
Yeah.
go
So
ahead, Chris.
the reason I love this book is because, I have a traditional entrepreneur type of approach where like I'm I can be focused on a million different things at once, right? And that's not really great as an entrepreneur, and it's tough for you to get the traction you need in the beginning, and the focus you really need to be able to not only get your first deal but do deals consistently. So this book was a game changer for me because it shared a clarifying question that literally makes it easier to understand like what's the main thing you should be working on, right? And then I've taken it a step further. One of my other mentors basically said, the first activity you start your day with should be with something that can make you money. So in real estate, that's one of three things. That's either growing your buyers list, that's either talking with sellers or getting in front of sellers. So launching a new marketing campaign, right? Starting your day with one of those things, but one thing, one strategy, one marketing channel, full speed ahead, and you'll be amazed over 90 days what that can do for you.
I love that. And so we're big believers in the Go Giver here, and that's another book. If anybody hasn't read it, please
Great
do.
book. Yeah.
Great book. So we're big believers in the go-givers. So I like to remind the audience that when you were born, your parents had to give to you long before you were capable of giving back to them. And when you work a traditional job, you work for 2 weeks or more before you get your first paycheck. So if you believe that you're going to hold firewood in your hand and look at the fireplace and say, "Give me warmth first, and then I'll give you this wood," it's going to be a cold winter. So I like to ask every guest in every episode, what can you give the audience today?
Yeah, so I actually have a free mind map that is going to be an absolute game changer for you all. If any of you listening to this today, you're like thinking, "Man, I would love to learn how to wholesale virtually, or just understand like what's involved with that. Like, what are each of the steps?" I have a mind map that I'm going to give you guys just because Michael's so awesome and I love his podcast here. It's called the 5 Baby Steps to Wholesaling Houses from Home. And I'm going to send it to Michael. He'll have it, I guess, in the show notes, and you guys can get access to that. I share with you the exact lists that we target. I share with you how we get photos of these properties being virtual. You're literally going to see every part of the process, a 30,000-foot view of what that looks like, so you can envision yourself doing it and see how it could work for you.
Love that. And we'll get that in the show notes. There'll be a link in the description. And so my next question is, what can the audience give you today?
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, like my thing is if people can learn something and take it and do deals, like that's what I'm huge, right? I love that. So, I do a lot of content every single day on my Facebook. So if you just want to, if you like what you heard today and you'd like to follow me on Facebook, you can do that. My username is Chris Logan REI. Michael, I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes. You guys can do that. Follow me, and I'd love to connect with you and see how I can help you on your journey.
Chris Logan, REI, and we will have that in the show notes. And if you could, anybody, if you like this podcast, give it a rate and review. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. You can contact me, DM me if you have a deal in the Houston area, or if you have a question, shoot me a DM at Michael B. Someone on Instagram. That was at Michael B. Someone, or you could shoot me a text. I give my phone number out on every podcast. 832-301-9672. Don't call me. I won't answer. I get so many spam calls every day. Shoot me a text first before we hop on a call. And this was Michael Hong for the Be Someone podcast with Chris Logan signing off.
Thanks, Michael.